Parents didn't want to see me with my children at family dinner. There's no seats for them. There are other grandchildren sitting here, said Dad, and my sister laughed, but when there are no seats for them. The other grandchildren are sitting here, my dad said. My sister, Lauren, laughed like it was the funniest thing she'd ever heard. I stood in the doorway with my two children, holding a small gift bag. I had come to congratulate her on her promotion, thinking it would be a family reunion. My younger brother, Jake, had told me to come. It'll be fun, Stan. Everyone will be there. But as soon as I walked in, I knew I had made a mistake. The dining room table was set, plates and silverware neatly arranged, wine glasses filled. It was full of familiar faces, my parents, Lauren, her husband, their two children. Everyone but me and my kids. I glanced at my mother, hoping for some kind of intervention, but she was busy arranging the plates as if they were the most important thing in the world. My father stood with his arms crossed, looking annoyed that I had even shown up. Lauren leaned back in her chair, amused. Then my father said it. Why did you bring the kids? We didn't even invite you. Why are you even here? The words hit harder than I expected. My youngest, still clinging to my leg, looked up at me in confusion. My older one, who was just old enough to understand when we weren't wanted, looked from me to them, waiting to see how I would react. Well, come in, I guess, my father finally said, as if doing me a favor. But there's no room for you. Only room for the other grandchildren, Lauren's children. Our beautiful daughter's children. She'll finally be able to help us now. Lauren laughed again, louder this time. I kept my voice calm. So our sister is golden now. Huh? Now that she's been promoted, she doesn't need my help anymore? Lauren rolled her eyes. Who needs you, Stanley? Huh? I smiled, relieved. Perfect. That means I don't have to pay the mortgage anymore. It's their burden now. The laughter stopped immediately. My father's face twitched. My mother, who had been pretending to be busy, finally turned to look at me. Lauren straightened in her chair. Wait, what? I shrugged. You don't need me, right? So I'll stop making the extra payments. Lauren can handle it now. No one spoke for a few seconds. The change in the air was almost comical. A moment ago, I was the unnecessary outsider. But now, suddenly, I mattered. Lauren let out a nervous laugh. Come on, Stan, don't be dramatic. I turned to my kids. All right, let's go. Are you serious? My dad snapped. You're just going to leave? You just said we weren't invited. Lauren looked at our mom, then back at me. You wouldn't actually stop paying, would you? I smiled. Watch me. I took my kids by the hand and headed for the door. That's when I caught Jake in the back of the room, standing against the wall. He hadn't said a word the whole time. His hands were in his pockets, his eyes fixed on the floor. Unlike the others, he looked embarrassed. I opened the door and stepped out, closing it behind me. In the car, my youngest spoke up. Why don't Grandma and Grandpa like us? I exhaled, keeping my voice light. It's just that your grandparents are a little inadequate. And your aunt, too. But don't worry, we'll fix that. I laughed and we drove home. When I told my wife, she was stunned. She was 8 months pregnant and didn't want to leave the house. But when I told her, she just stared at me. You did this? In front of the kids? Yes, they really did. She shook her head, speechless. A week later, everything changed. A week went by. I didn't think about her much. Life actually felt easier. No mortgage payments hanging over my head. No late-night calls from my parents needing money. Just me, my kids, and my pregnant wife getting ready for the baby. Then, out of nowhere, Jake showed up at my house. I opened the door to find him standing there, looking exhausted. Hey, he said, can I come in? Jake never just stopped by. Something was up. I let him in, and he sat down at the kitchen table and rubbed his face. Lauren lost her job. He finally said, I blinked. Already? Yeah, got fired. She's totally screwed. I sat back, processing. Let me guess, she spent her entire paycheck before she even got it. Yup. He let out a dry laugh. Bought a bunch of expensive crap. Thought she had it made. Then boom. Gone. I grinned. Karma moves fast, huh? Jake hesitated. It's worse than that. I raised an eyebrow. She didn't just get fired, he said. Someone set her up. That got my attention. What do you mean? Some guy at work, she thought he was her boyfriend. He stole a bunch of money from the company and somehow pinned it on her. She didn't see it coming. She's not just fired, Stan. She might get sued. I whistled. Damn. Yeah. He shook his head. Mom and Dad are going crazy. They were counting on her to help with the bills. Now they're panicking. I leaned forward. So what? They wanted to fix it? Jake didn't answer right away, which told me everything I needed to know. I laughed. Unbelievable. They literally kicked me and my kids out a week ago. Told me we didn't belong. And now suddenly they remember I exist? Jake sighed. Look, I'm not saying you owe them anything. I just thought you should know. Things are falling apart over there. Fine, I said without hesitation. Jake stared at me. You don't mean that. Oh, I do, I said. They made their choice. Lauren laughed in my face. Dad practically pushed us out the door. They were going to treat me like nothing. Now they can deal with what that actually feels like. Jake ran a hand through his hair. I get it, man. I do. But just don't do anything you'll regret later. I leaned back in my chair and thought about it. Not because I wanted to help, but because for the first time, they needed me more than I needed them. And I liked that. Jake left a little later, and I went back to my normal night, feeling strangely at peace. Then, around midnight, my phone rang. It was my mother. I let the phone ring. Then it rang again, and again. I ignored it, watching the screen light up in the darkness of our bedroom. My mother's name flashed over and over. My wife, half asleep, muttered, "Who keeps calling?" "My mother," I said. She frowned. At midnight? Yep. I silenced the phone and rolled over. A few minutes later, Jake texted. "Jake, pick up. It's bad." I sighed and called him back. He answered right away. "Stan, you need to come over. Dad's having chest pains. Mom's freaking out." I sat up. "Wait, what? He doesn't look good, man." Mom tried calling Lauren first, but she's not answering. She's been crying all day about her job, and now she's ignoring everything. I grinned. "You mean the golden child doesn't want to deal with family problems?" Shocking. "Stan, come on. This is serious." I hesitated. I knew I should go, but part of me remembered standing at that dinner table, my children beside me, while my father looked me in the eye and told me we weren't welcome. I exhaled. "Fine. I'll be there soon." My wife sat up. "You're really leaving?" "I just want to see what's going on." She studied my face, but didn't argue. "Be careful." I pulled into the driveway and immediately noticed something strange. The house felt different. For years, it had been the place where I always ended up fixing her problems, paying their bills, covering up their mistakes. It had been the place where I was needed, but never respected. But now I was just a visitor. I entered without knocking. My father was slumped in his chair, his face pale and sweaty. He was breathing heavily, clutching his chest. My mother stood beside him, trembling. The air was thick with panic. She rushed toward me. "Stanley. Oh, thank God you came. Your father. He's in pain. He can't breathe properly." I stared at her. "Did you call 911? She blinked as if the thought hadn't occurred to her. I pulled out my phone. "Jesus, Mom." I called an ambulance as my mother paced frantically. Then something hit me. "Why did you call me before you called for help?" She looked confused. I didn't know what to do. "Liar," I muttered. "You called because you wanted me to fix it." Like always. She didn't deny it. The paramedics were there within minutes. They examined my father and hooked him up to a monitor. One of them turned to me. "It's not a heart attack, but his blood pressure is dangerously high. It's stress-related." I almost laughed. I bet I know what's causing the stress. They loaded him into the ambulance, my mother still clinging to my arm. "Stanley, please." I looked down at her. "Please what?" Tears welled in her eyes. "We need help." I let the words sink in. A week ago, I was nothing to her. Now I was their only option. I looked into her eyes and said no. Then I walked out. For the first time in years, I felt free. I had walked away, left them to deal with their own mess. And the world didn't end. No one died. No disaster occurred. I had spent my whole life thinking that if I didn't hold it all together, it would fall apart. Turns out it was falling apart anyway. The next morning, my wife watched me sip my coffee. So, how bad was it? I grinned. No heart attack. Just stress. She raised an eyebrow. And I told my mom no. I said, setting my cup down. Her eyes widened. You actually said no? Yep. Walked right out. She leaned back in her chair, looking almost amused. Wow. Who are you? I have no idea, I said, laughing. Then, just as I was starting to enjoy my morning, there was a knock at the door. It was Jake, and he looked pissed. As soon as I opened the door, he pushed past me. You really just left? I sighed. Yes, Jake. I left. Because I'm not their damn ATM anymore. Jake ran a hand through his hair. Mom's a wreck. Dad's still in the hospital for observation. And Lauren. He let out a bitter laugh. Lauren still won't answer her damn phone. I shrugged. Not my problem. Jake hesitated, then sat down at the table. Look, I don't want to bring this up, but I have to. Did you know they've already spent the $4,500 you gave them? I froze. What? Jake nodded. The money you sent to pay off their debt? Gone. Dad didn't even use it for the mortgage like he said. My jaw tightened. Then where the hell did it go? Jake hesitated. To Lauren. They gave her cash. A lot of it. An arrest? Stupid crap. Some new furniture she wanted. A weekend away. Just wasted. I stared at him, waiting for him to say he was joking. But he wasn't. I let out a slow breath, trying to stay calm. So let me get this straight. I paid off almost $5,000 of your debt. And instead of being responsible, you gave money to Lauren? Jake looked down. Yeah, I laughed. But not because I thought it was funny. It was because I finally understood. They used me. I said, not just for bills, not just to keep the lights on. They saw me as their rainy day fund, a bottomless wallet. The second I helped them, they threw it away on Lauren, because she's the one they really care about. Jake didn't argue. He knew it was true. He rubbed his face. Look, I understand why you're mad. I'd be mad too, but they're in deep shit now. The bank's breathing down their necks about the mortgage. Dad's in the hospital. Mom's barely holding it together. And Lauren? She's completely useless. I shook my head. No, I'm done. Jake sighed. Stan. No. I cut him off. You made your choice. You put everything into Lauren. They treated me like I was nothing. And now they need me? I scoffed. Let them see what nothing really feels like. Jake sat there, silent for a moment. Then he let out a dry laugh. You know, you're right. I raised an eyebrow. Wait, what? He leaned back. They're going to start leaning on me next. They'll run out of options. And I'll be the last one left. You should get out now, I said, before they take you down with them. Jake looked at the table and thought. Then he stood up. All right. Just thought you should know. He walked to the door, but stopped before he opened it. Are you sure you won't regret this? I met his eyes. No, for the first time in my life. I know I won't. Jake nodded. Then he left, and I sat there, realizing something important. This wasn't just a moment of anger. I was done for good. For the next few days, my phone was silent. No calls from my parents. No texts from Lauren. Even Jake went silent. I thought maybe they'd finally gotten the message. Then on Saturday afternoon, my wife and I were in the nursery, setting up the crib, when I heard a car pull into the driveway. I looked out the window. It was my mother. I sighed. Unbelievable. My wife looked over my shoulder. She actually drove here? Looks like it. There was a loud knock on the door. My mother had never come to my house unannounced. She had always expected me to come to her. I opened the door, but didn't invite her in. She looked exhausted. Her hair was a mess, and her eyes were red as if she'd been crying. Stanley, please, she said. We need to talk. I crossed my arms. About what? She swallowed hard. Your father is still in the hospital. The doctors are keeping him longer because his blood pressure won't stabilize. The stress is killing him. I remained silent. She took a deep breath. And we may lose the house. There it was. I leaned against the doorframe. Not my problem. Stanley, she whispered. Please. We have nothing. We gave everything to Lauren because we thought she would take care of us. We trusted her. Her voice broke. But she hasn't come to see your father once. She doesn't return our calls. She ignores us completely. I shrugged. Wow, that must be hard. Her hand shook. I know we treated you badly. I know we made mistakes. But we have nowhere else to turn. The mortgage is past due. The bank is already sending out warnings. And your father's medical bills dash. She wiped her eyes. We can't afford them. I stared at her completely unmoved. You know what's funny? I said, a few months ago, I paid off your debt. Almost $5,000. And you didn't even use it on the house. You gave it to Lauren. You chose her over me. Over your grandchildren. She looked down, ashamed. And now? I continued. Now she's gone. And suddenly I'm important again. Tears streamed down her face. Stanley, please. We don't know what to do. I let her words hang in the air for a moment. Then I smiled. Figured out. She gasped. You don't mean that. I do. I said, I really do. I stepped back and started to close the door. And that's when she snapped. You owe us. She suddenly yelled. I froze. Excuse me? You owe us, Stanley. She yelled. We raised you. We fed you. We gave you everything. And now that we need you, you're just going to turn your back on us? I laughed. Everything? Really? You treated me like a backup plan. Like a safety net for when Lauren let you down. You threw me away as soon as she got her promotion. And now that she's gone, I'm suddenly your son again? She shook her head, angry. You were selfish. After all we've done for you. I didn't even argue. I just smiled. Good luck, Mom. Then I slammed the door in her face. I turned to see my wife standing there, hands on her stomach, staring at me. She exhaled. That was crazy. I nodded. Yeah, and I'm so done. We stood there for a moment, just taking it in. Then we heard a loud bang from outside. I ran to the window and looked out. My mom had kicked the side of my car. She was screaming. Her face was red with anger. Then she got in her own car and drove off. I turned back to my wife, who was still wide-eyed. Well, I said, that went well. She stared at me. Then she burst out laughing. After my mother left, I thought that was it. That they'd finally accept that I was done and move on. I was wrong. A few days later, Jay called. They want to work something out. He said. His voice was tight, as if even he was tired of their nonsense. I sighed. Of course they do. They think maybe you'd be willing to just loan them money instead of giving it. Or maybe you could put the house payments in your name and they pay you back. I let out a sharp laugh. Are you serious? Dead serious. I shook my head. Not happening. Stan, they're desperate. Jake said, I don't think they've ever been this scared. Not my problem. I said, my voice firm. I warned them. I gave them my help for years. They chose Lauren. They used me. And now they're paying the consequences. Jake hesitated. So there's nothing they can say to change your mind? Nothing. He was silent for a second, then sighed. Good. Because I'm with you. That surprised me. You are? Yes. He said, I've thought about it a lot. And you're right. They didn't care about us the way they cared about Lauren. We were just convenient. And I'm tired of being their backup plan, too. I smiled. Proud of you, man. Thanks. He said, but there's a problem. What? I told him. My stomach sank. And? Jake let out a breath. They kicked me out. I sat up. What do you mean they kicked you out? I mean, I told them I agreed with you. That they had to deal with their own mess. And Dad lost it. Said if I wasn't going to be part of this family, then I could get the hell out. I shook my head. Unbelievable. Yeah. Well, I called his bluff and left. Jake said, I packed a bag and left. I'm in a motel right now. I didn't even think about it. Come stay with me. He hesitated. Are you sure? You don't have much room with the baby coming. I don't care. I said, you're not staying in a damn motel. Pack your stuff and come over. There was a pause. Then Jake said, "Thanks, Stan." "Really?" A few hours later, he showed up at my door with a duffel bag. He looked exhausted, as if the weight of our parents' selfishness had finally hit him. I patted him on the back. "Welcome to freedom." He laughed, but it was a weary laugh. "Yeah, guess we're both out now, huh?" "Guess so." We put him up in a small guest room. It wasn't much, but he didn't mind. Over the next few days, my phone blew up. My parents called me every name in the book. A selfish bastard, a cheapskate, a disgrace to the family. Apparently, if I didn't give them money, I was worthless to them. Lauren wrote once, "Lauren, you're pathetic. You've always been jealous of me, and now you're trying to turn Jake against US? Grow up." I didn't even bother to reply. And then what? Silence. For the first time in my life, I didn't hear from them. No guilty phone calls. No fake apologies. No manipulative pleas for help. Just nothing. Jake and I settled into a routine. It was weird at first, two grown men suddenly living together like we were kids, but honestly, it was nice. We were on the same team for the first time, and after everything, it was enough. I haven't spoken to my parents for 3 months. 3 months of peace. 3 months of not being needed. The baby is almost here. Jake is saving up to get his own place. And I wake up every morning wondering what financial disaster my parents are going to dump on me next. Do I miss them? No. I miss the idea of having real parents. Parents who love you for more than what you can do for them. But the real people, the ones who threw me and my kids away for Lauren and then expected me to save them when she failed them? No, I don't miss them at all.